What's up, everybody? Let's talk about some of the decks from the Discord community tournament. I'm going to start with Hanging Bananas deck. It made it into the top 8, and he's the one who suggested these video ideas, so I really kind of want to give him some of the credit there, and so I'm going to start with his deck. I've got a couple of the other decks that I've seen either message to me or I've seen on as public deck lists. If any of the top 8 have not already put their decks list as public and marked it clearly, or message me, please feel free to. I'd love to cover all of the top 8 decks. But let's go ahead and start with this one. There's a bunch of fun stuff that we may begin to see in the meta as we go. So Hanging Bananas named this deck Realm Lockdown. So it's got a lot of control aspects in it. If you look at what these cards do, he's got 2 Dwarven Vaults. Stones can't be seized from you from battles in this realm. Galactic's Throne. When this is untapped, enemies with an on-arrival ability are nullified. Tap free. When this is tapped, enemies with tap abilities are nullified. 2 of those. A Phoenix Quill. Fire Flower. Life Engine. So all of these items are kind of allowing him to control what his opponent is doing, control the board state, and lock down realms and his opponent's choices. And we see that pattern continued with what these wonders that he's running can do. Primal Offense. Stones can't be seized from you from battles in this realm. Tap action, put a shield counter on this. The Evil Kitty. Whenever an opponent's spell or effect would target a wonder you control, nullify it unless they spend 2 energy. Ethereal Warden, Stone Temple Guardian, Zendra. All of these boundless cards are forcing your opponents either to spend additional resources to do what they need, or telling them that they can't have resources. Just forcing your opponent to play so much more and to spend so much more that you can outpace them really easily. And he's also got a fairly strong faith mechanic in here. And I think that's so that, he can use abilities like Reverence Engineer. Spend 4 faith, target player can't attack target cards. Can't attack target cards or play cards in target realm this round. Zelatana also has, this big tap free, being able to use faith. And so it's kind of building to be able to, lock down and prevent your enemy from making their plan happen. And that's what a lot of these faith and Boundless and Heliosynth cards are doing. We also, of course, have our Moonfire Crystal Mouse. You don't really run a deck without it these days, at least if you're trying to play competitively. And then a lot of these other cards from Sulfera are meant to capitalize on the decisions that you're forcing your opponent to make. Whenever a player harvests a land, put 2+1 counters on this for Rock Skin. Rust Trooper does something very similar. Whenever an opponent gains an action that's not from the start of the round, you may put a +1 counter on each wonder you control. Ragnar allows you, if you can get him out, you can get all of the stones that you haven't seized and you seize later to a single realm, and you can control and protect just that realm. And it's a very powerful deck that allows you to force your opponent to waste resources, to try and do what they were doing to activate their plan. And it just doesn't allow your opponent to play sometimes. And I think that's really powerful. There's a couple more things I want to look at, like lands. Here's some more to power up faith, gaining actions. Here's another can't attack. Ethereal Grove is always a good choice. And all these lands are just working to kind of build this support for this deck that, is just gonna make sure that you have control and that you have locked down what you need to lock down to be able to win. The last few things are these few spells: gain control of target item and untap it, sacrifice it at the end of the round. This round, whenever an enemy wonder attacks, it gets -2 until the end of the round. So I've not seen this deck play. I will admit that I was unable to watch these games, but this is, I think we're going to start to see more and more of this boundless lockdown and this lockdown play style, because it is so powerful in Wonder, especially if you can force everything to slow down, if you can control when your opponent can play and what they can play, if you can make it so they don't have formless energy and they don't have actions to be able to play cards or attack or draw cards. This is not my favorite playstyle, because I hate playing against this kind of deck, and so I don't like playing this kind of deck. This is definitely a deck that will win you games, but it will not win you friends. Unless you already know people, and it's a good deck. But it's just something to be aware of, that the goal of this deck is to make it so your opponent can't play. And so, I highly recommend coming and taking a look at this deck, taking a look at all of the decks from the top 8 of the tournament. They're all really good from what I've seen, and I'm super excited to cover more of them. I think it just this deck in particular combos really well and puts a lot of unique abilities, similar abilities together to pull off some really cool lockdown. So great job building a deck, Hanging Bananas, and this is what I've got for you today. So please, as always, like, comment, subscribe, and keep being your wonderful selves.